As the saying goes, every great story needs a great villain. To date, the DC Extended Universe has offered up a mixed bag of bad guys, ranging from good to decent to painful. Here's looking at you, Lex. This shared cinematic realm has showcased some of DC Comics' most notorious villains since it began in 2013 with Zack Snyder's Man of Steel, but there's still so many of DC's famed rogues available to be given the big screen treatment. Of course, the very future of the DCEU is an uncertain one right now, yet there are plentiful movies in various stages of development. So much so, it's safe to start looking through the ranks of DC's most infamous names and see which ones will be best suited to being brought to life in an upcoming feature. So, I'm Ewan, this is What Culture Comics, and here are 10 essential DC villains not yet used in the DCEU. Number 10, the Riddler. In trying to not simply redo the Batman villains we've seen already, one rogue ripe for another crack at the big screen bad action is the Riddler. To be particularly skeptical, it's fair to say that the Riddler has never been done proper justice when it comes to film. Frank Gorshin's take on the character could be a possible exception if you count Batman 66, but Jim Carrey? No, that was not the Riddler, even if we all do love his unsanctioned buffoonery. With Enigma being a cold, calculating sword who spends his time masterfully planning cunning schemes designed to take down the Dark Knight and plentiful other DC heroes, Carrey's Riddler was the polar opposite of this. The current landscape of superhero movies is now at a point where these are rightly viewed as serious films with some major stakes on the line. With that in mind, now could be the perfect time to give audiences a truly worthy take on Edward Nygma going up against Robert Pattinson's Dark Knight. Riddle me this indeed. Number 9, Vandal Savage. Vandal Savage is somebody who's caused a whole lot of chaos for a whole lot of people over a whole lot of years. Seriously, as in this is a fella who has been around since the days of the cavemen. After coming into contact with a strange meteorite, the caveman once known as Vandar Adger became immortal and super intelligent. Taking on the Vandal Savage name, the character has since lived through every major event in history, using the knowledge obtained from these trials and tribulations as a form of research that gives him a one-up on whomever he goes to battle with. What makes Vandal Savage unique from the DCEU's perspective is that he could feasibly be dropped into any and all DCEU movies, mainly due to the fact that he's faced off with pretty much all of DC's finest that they have to offer. If there's ever another Justice League movie down the line, Savage would be a great big bad to have pulling the strings. Number 8, Solomon Grundy. Solomon Grundy is one of the most misunderstood figures in DC's library. Not in the sense that the man formerly known as Cyrus Gold is complex or anything, more in that he's pretty much a victim himself. DC's very own zombie has been here, there, and everywhere since his introduction in 1944. He works as a threat for Batman, Green Lantern, and even Swamp Thing, believe it or not. Sure, there might be comparisons with the Hulk when he eventually shirks his evil responsibilities, but Grundy is too pivotal a figure for DC to pass up. Number 7, Professor Zoom. No hero has as muddled and confusing a history as the Flash. Even when you narrow it down and focus on a certain incarnation of the Flash, in this case Barry Allen, that in itself throws up all kinds of varied timelines, different takes on villains, and plentiful deaths and resurrections. To clarify then, when we reference Professor Zoom here, we mean the rebirth version of Eobard Thawne. You know, the one that got a major amp up in the villainous stakes when Jeff Johns reintroduced the Rogue in 2009. In that arc, Johns had Thawne be responsible for every single tragedy in Barry's tragedy-filled life, most shockingly, the death of Barry's mother, Nora. It was only the other week that Warner Brothers entered talks with its Andy Muschietti to direct their long-gestating solo picture for Ezra Miller's Flash. From what we've seen from Barry Allen's DCEU appearances so far, it would make sense for that Scarlet Speedster film to explore the death of Nora Allen, a story point which, in turn, makes Professor Zoom a prime candidate to appear in the DCEU. Number 6, Clayface. Is Clayface an essential villain in terms of his story and his character? Likely not. Where this shape-shifting rogue is essential though, is in the visual possibilities he offers up. There have been a total of 7 people, and likely more, to have taken on the mantle of Clayface. More often than not in these various incarnations, the rogue has targeted Batman and or Catwoman. When he's not taking the form of other people, Clayface often resembles a living, breathing monster, complete with a slick, gooey appearance that is all part of the fluidity that enables his being to craft himself into any form. He doesn't even need to be the main big bad of a DCEU movie, but just from a sheer visual standpoint, and with the impressive technology available to such productions, it's essential to bring Clayface to the big screen at some point during the next few years. Number 5. Sinestro. Hot take. The Green Lantern film was bad, that much is true, but it did have a few ingenious castings. The late Michael Clark Duncan as Kilowog and Jeffrey Rush as Tomar Ray both did their respective roles justice, but it was Mark Strong's scenery-chewing turn as Sinestro that ended up being the film's main highlight. Sinestro is the GL Corps' big bad, and with DC set to reboot the series within the next few years, it makes sense for Sinestro to take a leading role. After all, he's a purple-skinned space tyrant outfitted in yellow with the mustache of Vincent Price. What's not to love? There are plenty of GL villains to draw from, but Sinestro is by far the most important. Number 4. Gorilla Grodd. With the solo movie for Ezra Miller's Flash seemingly now back on track and looking to speed forward into pre-production early next year, there's absolutely zero early information on just which villains Miller's Sultan of Speed will be butting heads with. Still, that doesn't stop us speculating on which no-good bad guys we'd like to see Barry Allen taking on. One such bad guy, whether as the main villain of the piece or in a more supporting role, is Gorilla Grodd. After all, who doesn't love the idea of seeing a super-intelligent, psionic gorilla brought to life on the silver screen? Grodd is one of the Flash's most dastardly, and not to mention most popular villains. Adding further intrigue to the idea of seeing the character beamed into the DCEU is the fact we've seen just how well apes can be realized nowadays through mocap technology. The rejig Planet of the Apes trilogy of recent years was mind-blowing to look at, and that same technology and skill could similarly be used to brilliantly realize Gorilla Grodd on the big screen. The CW's Flash series has already impressed with their spin on Gorilla Grodd, so just imagine what the high-end budget of Warner Bros. Could really achieve with this character on the silver screen. Number 3. Black Adam. He may be yet to appear in the DC Extended Universe, but those who've watched this year's Shazam were made familiar with the nefarious Black Adam's origin through the storytelling of Jimon Honsu's The Wizard. When it comes to being brought to big screen life, a Black Adam movie has been in development for nearly a decade by this point. For those keeping tabs, Dwayne Johnson has been long attached to play the character, both in a Shazam movie and in a solo outing for Black Adam himself. With WB deciding against using the character in Shazam, Adam is now geared up for a solo movie that is due to begin production next year. Able to match and best hugely powerful heroes like Superman and Shazam, Black Adam has the sort of abilities that any hero or villain would dream of. Magic, flight, speed, invulnerability, and a big old brain are just some of the skills afforded to this particular rogue. Number 2. Brainiac. Despite only having one solo movie to his name, Henry Cavill's Superman has already battled 3 of the Man of Tomorrow's greatest villains: Lex Luthor, General Zod, and Doomsday, and so Braniac seems like one of the few genuine threats who could surface to battle Cavill's Big Blue Boy Scout down the line, or even Supergirl if rumors are to be believed. Previously, there was talk of having the genius alien android appear as far back as 1983's Superman number 3, yet several attempts to incorporate the character into a Superman movie have ultimately all been shelved. Right now, the future of Henry Cavill as Superman is a little up in the air, but whether it's Cavill, Supes, or someone else, Brainiac is a must-have villain for any future Superman outing. And number 1. Darkseid. His presence has already been alluded to in the DCEU, not least in how his uncle Steppenwolf was doing his bidding in Justice League, but Darkseid himself has yet to be fully brought to live action in Warner Bros.' shared DC realm. Where Marvel Comics has the likes of Thanos and Galactus as its all-powerful, unstoppable bad guys, one of the main DC equivalents is the nefarious Darkseid. Having debuted in 1970, this villain has battled and bested some of DC Comics' finest heroes. In fact, he's managed to topple the entire Justice League multiple times. To be fair, having the nickname of the God of Evil kinda gives you an idea that Darkseid isn't exactly sunshine and rainbows. From the planet of Apocalypse, this is a villain who has nothing but the most sinister of intentions, which we'll probably come to know in Ava DuVernay's New Gods film. Based on what we saw in 2017's Justice League, it most certainly looks as if the seeds have been sown for Darkseid to step out of the shadows. And much like the MCU did with Thanos, Warner Bros. Could have an iconic silver screen villain on their hands if used correctly. As always, I've been Ewan, keep supporting your local comic book store, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!
Look, my son, look at the marvel that I have created. Comics. They called me a fool for trying to put a dead meme onto a t-shirt. A damn bold fool! A damn bold fool with an ass that won't quit. It got quite personal towards the end there. But look who's laughing now! Quiet! Quiet, my son, my ugly son, for my other creation rises. Look at the quality fabric, hand-stitched by blind orphans. The perfect letter spacing calculated so meticulously that Rich Hudson had an erection for months about it. And a colouring so deep that I had to buy the dye off the dark web. Oh, for God's sake, Josh!
Sorry.
Marvel. Oh no, the beast has grown angry, angered by our drab fashion choices. I am such a fool to think that it wouldn't try to infect us with its perfect design. Quick, we must do something to appease the beast. Why don't we buy one from shop.whatculture.com? Look, it's already got Scott Nash.
Oh no!
But where can I buy one? Are you kidding me? This is why I don't give you any extra lines. But also at shop.whatculture.com. Quick, let's go and buy one right now. Let's go buy one right now.
Right now.
Oh, don't you try hard now. You've already lost your bit. Oscar's in the f***ing bin. Ah, there we go. Doesn't that look better? I feel so virile and alive, and it's also fixed your hump. That's actually pretty good. Now, do yourself a favour and act like your mum and spread the love, aka her legs, and buy yourself one of these glorious dead memes on a t-shirt, courtesy of this handsome chap right here. You're very, very welcome.
Cut!
Jesus Christ, mine is so
It's
itchy.
all wet. What?
It stinks. I pissed on yours.
The worst font ever.
I want to die.